In the last few days, I watched a video from Johann Hari. It was a TED Talk, and he was talking about anxiety and depression. And then I watched a video from Dr. Barry talking about hepatitis C. I'm going to link both of those in the description below. But watching those two videos got me thinking about the way that we treat illness here in North America. I want to share 3 issues that came to me from watching these videos that you can solve right now in our medical model. Dr. Barry talked about how researchers work really hard to try to find cures to illnesses that we have. Doctors want to give us the cures that the researchers find, but then the intermediary there, so the people that give them money, don't find that good for business. Apparently, if we are given a one and done cure, like what they found for hepatitis C, that's bad for business because I'm better and I move on with my life. This issue is very apparent in the weight loss world. If everybody knew that the foods that they were eating were actually designed to cause you to eat them uncontrollably and not be able to stop, at minimum, I believe we would stop feeding those things to our children. And I say that with confidence because we don't allow our children to drink or smoke. But let's take this idea one step further. I actually believe that 50% of the population would stop eating garbage if they knew for sure that the medical issues that they were living, that the weight that was rising was being caused by the foods that they were eating. And I say that with certainty because every person who's not keto or carnivore or low carb in any way, as soon as they try to get their weight under control, what do? A low fat diet. When did we learn that? We learned that back in 1970. That's not the natural thing that we've been doing for thousands of years. It's the thing that we've been doing for like 50 years. Yet, go on a diet, people do low fat. The second problem that we have is that we believe that medication can solve any problem that we're having. A great example of that is anxiety and depression. Despite people living abusive situations, financial problems, or even being isolated, as we saw over the last few years, we offer them medication to ease their suffering. Now, don't get me wrong. A good doctor is going to offer you medication and then encourage you to get therapy. But the problem that I see is that, first of all, if the medication works, so I take the medication and I feel better, I've just been told that the problem that I'm having is a chemical imbalance in my head, point final. That means that I'm much less likely to even think about going to get counseling now because I solved the problem. But the other problem here is that as a society, we shame people who get counseling, which now means that if the medication doesn't work, or heaven forbid, if the medication makes the situation worse, which does happen, the person, because we shame therapy, is much more likely to try self-medicating than they are to push forward and do the therapy now that they're feeling even worse. It's scary because when we drink, smoke, other substances, eat, do other activities that push that dopamine hit, we feel better. And the person then has this message happening that, well, I tried taking what the doctor gave me, that didn't work. Therapy's for losers. But doing this activity, whether it's drinking something or eating something, well, that makes me feel better. Why wouldn't I just keep doing that? Wellness warrior, we pretend like bad things don't happen to people, even though when you turn on the news, we see that bad things are happening all the time. The odds are, at some point, something bad is going to happen to me or you. Real world problems, struggles, catastrophes lead to anxiety and depression. And the only way to truly solve anxiety and depression fully is not just medication. It's solving the actual real world scenario that the person is living. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, oh, but some things cannot be solved. Everything can be solved. Even the passing of a person, there's a solution to that. We block ourselves from engaging the solution, but there is a solution to that. The third thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we do not rely on each other anymore as a society. We don't rely on each other. It used to be the common understanding that it takes a village to raise a child. And that was born out of the understanding that as a parent, I can't have my eyes on my kid all the time. As a parent, I might have domestic things I need to do, I might have work things I need to do, and that we would need other village members to step in and help us out. We live in nuclear families today. And this idea of independence and I can do it all by myself and I don't need anybody's help is messing with our ability to make great choices. But is it really what's best for our mental and physical health to be this independent? Back in 1943, Maslow developed his theory of the hierarchy of needs. And honestly, I think every armchair psychologist and marketer quotes this hierarchy to explain why we do what we do. And yet, somehow, when we really need to solve problems that are happening with us, that's when we ignore it. We pay no attention to what Maslow was trying to get us to understand. I want to break it down for you. Our motivation is tied to our basic needs and our growth needs. If our basic needs are not met, we're going to feel motivated to try to get those needs met. And then when we meet the need, the motivation completely falls away. So for example, my hunger need. When I'm hungry, I will seek food. And then if everything's working correctly, when I eat the food, I no longer seek food. That's not a motivating factor for me any longer. We're going to come back to this point, but first I want to talk about what are our basic needs. So, of course, we have food, shelter, sleep, all the physical needs, the need for safety at home, work, and in the world. Those are basic needs. But what we've often gotten wrong is that love, belonging, and esteem needs are also basic needs under Maslow's model. The problem with getting this wrong, I'm going to demonstrate in an example. We get really upset when our spouse does not show us grand gestures of love and attention and affection. But in fact, if my spouse's needs in the relationship are being met, their motivation to try to get that from me is obviously going to be less. My spouse is going to put his attention on meeting the needs that are not being met in our relationship. So this could be friendships. It might be work and progressing at work. It could be feeling respected. What I want you to think about is the fact that we don't feel motivated to invest in something that we have what we need of. If I'm full, I'm not chasing it. Motivation to achieve basic needs is highest when the need is not being met, and it's lowest when the need has been accomplished. What I find interesting, though, is that our need for friendship, family, a sense of belonging, connection, respect, recognition, status, self-esteem, and strength and freedom will not likely all be met by our partner, and certainly not on a daily basis. The fact is, we're social beings, which means that, yes, some of these needs are going to be met by Pat, but others of these needs are going to be met by friends and family and work relationships and all manner of other interactions that we're having. What happens when we are struggling to meet those needs outside of the home, or heaven forbid, neither outside nor inside the home? We try to self-soothe. And this is where I see the real problem with not understanding what Maslow was trying to tell us. That hierarchy of needs that's in that triangle pyramid, where the bottom layer needs to be accomplished before the next layer, and so on up the ranks. We don't understand that the only thing that can truly satisfy hunger is hunger. And the only thing that can truly satisfy feeling connected is feeling connected. We do mistakes, Wellness Warrior. We have a tendency to try to motivate our children to do what we want by bribing them with gifts rather than letting them learn to do the thing because of the success they feel in doing the thing. Remember that when the need is achieved, the child would naturally move on to the next need and then try to accomplish that one. As the child progresses, they would be achieving their needs in a socially appropriate way that's actually based on interacting with people rather than trying to win gifts. But we're an impatient society and we entice children to do what we want by offering them candy, toys, and privileges. And then we're confused as adults when we're chasing food, jewelry, and cool gadgets as signs that we're worthy. And we give them to ourselves in hopes to make ourselves feel better about our accomplishments or less hurt by our failures. It isn't working. Our desire to self-soothe with food is actually contradictory to our good health because we are social beings. We will succeed at being healthy when we get back to helping each other, because the needs we're trying to accomplish can only really happen with other people. We're trying to solve a desire to be accepted, a desire to feel connected, a desire to feel like we are part of the group by eating a cookie or drinking some soda to get that dopamine hit, which goes back to this idea that everything can be solved through medicating us. And it can't be, because this is a social request. I want to feel connected. If we were to share information about the foods that we actually find healthy, the foods that helped us to get our body back strong, that would help us. Because by telling another human what I did and having them resonate with me as they do it and get the same result, it helps us to feel safe. Because if you ate it and you were okay, and then I eat it and I'm okay, like we're kind of backing each other up. Hey, this is okay to do. It helps us to feel connected because our squad eats the same way. It helps us to feel like we're friends. That sense that we like each other because we actually took the time to have this conversation and try to help the other person accomplish a goal that you know that they have, or get help from someone to accomplish a goal that you have. Being able to talk about the things that are actually on your mind, like if I'm worrying about the foods that I'm eating, or I'm worried about my weight, or I'm worried about my health, or I'm worried about whatever it is, being able to talk freely about those things, my struggles with food, and not be judged or ridiculed, is central not only to solving the problem, but feeling seen. Our strong community identity is what allowed us to band together all those years ago and outwit the much stronger animals on the planet that could have eaten us. And we need to band together again and strategize. How are we going to get our health back under control? I think the best way to do that is in a caring, supportive environment. So click on the link right there. Let's do this together.